Welcome everyone to the Josh and Josh Show. I'm your host, Josh, and this is my boy, Frenzy over here. And it's one of those dry moments in MMA right now. It's not too much going on. It's gonna pick up in the upcoming weeks, which is gonna be super dope because those fights are gonna be greatness. But there's still always gonna be MMA news, just like pop culture news. And which one you want to start with first, Josh? I'll give you the choice.
Well, I think why don't we start with what we were just talking about? Why don't we talk about Dodson moving up? Dodson, he's a former two-time title challenger at flyweight, which is 125. He lost both fights to Demetrius Johnson by decision, and now he's making the move to go up to 35, which is where he started.
Yeah, I mean, with this, I think it's definitely the right decision because in reality, he's not going to get a title shot with DJ anytime soon, especially after the fight they just had where DJ clearly just showed he's a way better fighter. This time, it's not as close as the first one. And, I mean, you could always use you had a baby and your family, you had a lot of stuff going on. But in reality, I kind of think regardless of the baby situation, I think you would have lost anyways just in that manner because DJ has just evolved into that kind of guy. So, and it's better at 135 where everybody they're active, but they're not as active at 25. 25, a majority of the cats, they run around a lot more than 35. And with his speed, there's nobody at 35 faster than him. 125, yes, DJ was faster. That was probably the only one. At 135, he will be the fastest guy in that division. And he won't be cutting. So I think that will be the only thing that he's going to have to worry about, of course, will be his wrestling.
Yeah, I don't think you can really say that him having a baby or any other outside factors played a key role in his losses to Demetrius Johnson. I think Johnson was just a better fighter in every category. He just outmoved him, he outstruck him, he outwrestled him, he outpressured him, and yeah, he lost those fights. He just clearly was not the better fighter on those nights. Moving up to 35, I think is good. I'm not sure. I've never heard any reports of him really suffering hard from the weight cut, but obviously moving up 10 pounds is going to free up your diet, and it's going to give you a lot more energy regardless of how bad his weight cut was. So I'm interested to see how good he does. I think he does all right. People have always talked about his power, which he does have power for one of the lighter guys, but he's got great just athleticism. His movement has always been great, and I think he does real solid at 35. I don't think he becomes champion. I think he breaks top 10.
I think with Dodson, his weight cut, he might have easily made the weight, but I don't think that cardio-wise it helped him out because if you look at both the fights that were 5 rounds and his fight before the title eliminator fight, his cardio kind of died down in the later rounds.
Yeah, he definitely does tend to die out.
Yeah, so I mean, one, it probably is his athleticism because one thing when you're that explosive and you put a lot into your punches and your kicks, it's gonna wear you down. It's gonna wear anyone down. That and also, like I said, it could be the weight cut. So I think 135 is definitely the best move for him. And you were saying you don't think he could break top 5. The reason why I think that he could break top 5, and I honestly think he could potentially beat TJ again, is the fact that when you go into game plan, it's all about styles. And in reality, I think Dodson just has that style that can beat TJ. TJ likes to move around and all that. He likes the angles, like picking his shots. But in reality, let's think about Dodson. Dodson's faster than this guy. Striking wise, he's still a striker compared to a grappler. Regardless of what you've seen him do to Barao, TJ is still a grappler. If he doesn't try to wrestle Dodson and he tries to stand with him, I believe Dodson will still have the advantage. I think, people are starting to get a little carried away with TJ with the whole Barao situation, but now everybody's going to have to start understanding that Barao stand-up is great, but you just got to pick angles. You got to move. You can't stay in front of him. You don't stay in front of him, guess what? He's an easy target because he's flat-footed.
Yeah, there's a couple interesting aspects to look at when it comes to the TJ Dillashaw and both his future and his past. When Dodson knocked him out, it was for the Ultimate Fighter finale. That was when he knocked him out. So that was very, very early in TJ Dillashaw's career. And when it comes to TJ Dillashaw, he's one of like the weird, unique fighters in this way that there's really two TJ Dillashaws. There's the TJ Dillashaw before Bang and after Bang, and Bang being Dwayne Bang Ludwig, who is his coach. And He owns like one of the fastest knockouts in UFC. It was like 7 seconds.
6.
Yes, he's a great striking coach. His Muay Thai. He's got his own kind of take on Muay Thai, and TJ Dillashaw is kind of like his prized pupil that he's just been able to teach everything to. So
A snake in the grass.
yeah, as Connor would say. But that's interesting. How Connor called that out,
He
didn't he?
did though.
But yeah, so TJ Dillashaw, like at every fight, he seems to get more and more away from his wrestling and become more and more a striker. And I think that transition is going to take an even wider jump now that he's leaving Alpha Male, which is a predominant wrestling camp. And now he's going to, what is it called, Fight Team Elevation in Colorado, which is now the camp of Dwayne Van Ludwig. So I think he's gonna move more and more into striking.
Yeah, and I honestly think that's not gonna really feed into. I don't think that's gonna like help him out because one, I'm like I said, he's a great athlete. He's definitely turned around in striking, but he's still not a striker. I wouldn't say he's like I said, he's been curving his game up a little bit. He's been getting better, but don't go away from what you are. You're a D1 wrestler, and you're gonna always be a D1 wrestler. That's just like that's the same thing what happened with Koscheck. Koscheck, was a D1 wrestler, national champion. He started off taking people down, beating them up on the ground, and then slowly but surely he stopped wrestling and he went straight to striking. He was like, I'm gonna work on my striking because I need my striking to catch up with my wrestling. And what happened? Started knocking people out, but what happened when he started fighting people that were natural strikers? He was getting picked apart every single time and got knocked out several times, and he just forgot to go back to his wrestling. So when he tried to go back, he really just wasn't the same guy. And then he tried to do the same with Robbie Lawler. What happened? He took him down, but guess what? He popped back up and knocked him out. Went against Tyron Woodley, couldn't take him down. Guess what happened? He just got picked apart. So I feel like always stay grounded and know who you are. Like, you are a wrestler. Don't sit there and try to be cocky because you beat one person and you thinking, oh, I can strike with anybody. Yeah, strike with people when you're first, it isn't working. When your wrestling isn't working, you have to go to striking and mix it up. But don't sit there and just be like, oh, I'll stand with anyone when that wasn't what you were raised to do or raised doing. Because people like Dodson has been doing it their whole life.
TJ Dillashaw is different, man. The ground he's covered in just a few years. I think he's unique. He's special. I think he can do it. There's other people who can never. They fall in love with striking, but they just don't have it. They want to have it, but they don't. I think TJ is different. I think he can. I think he's one of the best strikers out there. His commandment of his movement and his accuracy is just ridiculously amazing.
See, that's the thing. I think the reason why people think he's just the most accurate dude and all this stuff is just the fact that he fought Barao.
He did the same thing to Soto too. When he had to fight Soto on like 24-hour notice.
We're not even going to talk about Soto. I got knocked down in 10 seconds at my fight after him. Like, Soto is hit and miss, man. And Soto actually gave him competition. Like, for the first couple rounds, he was giving him some work.
He was, but it's not like
TJ's defense is my problem.
It's not like Soto's a nobody either. He was like a former Bellator champ or something like that.
I don't think he was a champ.
I think he was a champ.
A contender.
He was something. He's definitely not a nobody. He's not a top UFC guy, that's for sure. But he's not a nobody either.
Yeah, of course he's not a nobody. But at the end of the day, you're a UFC champion, and he took more shots than he needed to, especially and also versus Barao. Like I said, that's what my problem is with his defense. He doesn't have the greatest of chins. I mean, sure, he took some shots from Barao, but look what happened with Dodson. Dodson knocked him out. And that's one thing you can never – if you have a chin, you have a chin. If you don't, you don't. Like, people can sit there and say, oh, Dodson got lucky or whatever, but Dodson's quick, man. He can land that shot again. And TJ is liable to get hit. So that's the reason why I think it's an interesting fight, because at the end of the day, it's definitely possible, and he definitely can get caught up again with another shot, because they did fight at 135. And, Dodson pulled the trigger. So it's going to be interesting to see. Clearly, TJ is not the same fighter mentally. And mentally is definitely probably his best asset going into that fight, if they've ever fought again, is the fact that, oh, yeah, you knocked me out, but it's not going to happen again. So I can see him having that mental edge where it's like, okay, I'm the champion, you're the challenger, I've done this, I've done that, you haven't done anything. Look who I knocked out. You're already getting beat on by DJ. But that's a perfect segue to our next topic, which is TJ. And go ahead and tell me the news because you was the one I was,
Yeah, it's so like it seems like every day there's more news in the TJ Dillashaw alpha male situation. We've known for a couple days now that TJ Dillashaw has officially left alpha
We'll
male.
start it from the beginning because I think there's like people that probably didn't even know that like the whole Uriah and Ludwig even had beef.
Yeah, it sounds like they've had some beef for a while. Team Alpha Male brought in Dwayne Bang Lugwood as their head coach maybe about a year ago. It's been a decent amount of time. And since that time, him and TJ have always had like a special relationship. And like they've apparently there was beef between Uriah and some of the other guys and Dwayne, cause of like sexism, racism, favoritism, just a whole bunch of just mudslinging back and forth between Dwayne and Faber. So then Dwayne said, "I'm leaving." He goes to Colorado to start his own gym called Fight Team Elevation or something like that. And a couple high level UFC guys join him. Matt Brown, you welterweight, killer. He goes out there and joins him. Clay Guida, who, he's obviously on a downward spiral,
Definitely.
maybe coming to the end of his career, but he's still got, I could easily see 3 or 4 more fights left in him, goes out there. So
him having more than that just for him being him.
yeah, and now TJ goes with him and leaves Alpha Male. So for Alpha Male, obviously this is a big loss. Their first ever UFC champion leaves the team when he's champion. That's a big problem for them. It also, the big thing is that it opens up a fight between Dillashaw and Faber, who have always been in the same weight class, but have always said we really wouldn't fight. Well, it's weird because every interview they gave was different. Some interviews they'd say they'd fight if the money was right. Other interviews they'd say they'd never fight. So it was kind of weird.
It's like the Rashad and John Jones thing.
Yeah, it needed a little emotion in there to get them going. And I think this is what it needs.
I don't think they're gonna fight.
I don't think they're going to fight because
Uriah's
the
not
fight,
even a contender right now.
Exactly. It wouldn't make sense to fight. He's got Cruz in front of him.
He's still got a Rafael Sunsao.
Yeah, he's got a Sunsao coming up.
And Uriah's getting older, man. And,
Yeah.
Even in his past fights, he hasn't looked the greatest. So I can see him losing a fight.
Yeah, oh,
coming
absolutely.
up. So, with his next fight. And it might be a Rafael, honestly, when you really think about it. Like, I don't think Uriah's booked for a fight. So I can see that happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of goes against, it kind of goes with Connor, what Connor was saying about him being a snake in the grass.
Yeah, man,
like
Connor
if
was right.
if you guys been watching The Ultimate Fighter, you can kind of see, like there was, I think it was 2 episodes ago. There were you probably haven't seen it, Josh. There was he's an on-campus student, everyone.
Yeah, no TV for me.
No TV for him. But yeah, so there was an episode where they were weighing in, and Connor was just giving it to Uriah, and he was just talking about, he said, TJ, he said, Ludwig took your boy TJ, he's a snake in the grass. He said, I could tell a snake when I see him. He said, he's a snake. And he was just like, he sent there, he said, you got him. He said, you brought him up from when he was a kid, or he was a young kid and a teenager or whatever, and now look at him, he left you. He said, he's a snake. He said, that's why everybody in your camp is a snake. And you can tell that Uriah was pissed. Like, Uriah is normally like, he's a chill dude. He doesn't get in his feelings unless he's talking to Cruz. That's when I see him get out of character. But when I say he was just like, bro, you don't even know what you're talking about. Like, no, shut up, leave it alone. Like, I could tell he was really getting like really.
Yeah, he was upset.
And it just goes to show, like, I really think like TJ's like, I mean, I understand from a fighter perspective. Ludwig brought you to this level, to this championship level. But it's like, there's a fine line between like, the guy that started you off and loyalty. Like, I don't know. I have a weird thing about it. Like, I understand TJ's plight, but it's just a weird situation. I don't know. What would you do in this situation?
When it comes down to it, MMA, mixed martial arts, man, it's an individual sport. This is all about you and what is best for you. And if TJ thinks that going to Colorado with Dwayne is what's best for him, then that's what I think he should do. When it comes down to it, there's no such thing as loyalty. There's no such thing as friends or teammates. That's all bullshit. That is all stuff people say that it's just passed down, that they think it should be said. It's not true. There's no such thing as teammates in MMA. There's just training partners, and sometimes you got to fight them, and that's no big deal. So for TJ,
So you would fight a teammate?
absolutely.
See, my thing is, and I probably feel this way because we both wrestle, because we have to wrestle each other. Like, that's in a real match. Like, I remember 2 years ago, no, not 2 years, 3 years ago, two guys from Liberty University were wrestling in the national finals, and they had to wrestle each other. So sometimes it does happen. Now, I do have a fine line between that when it comes to fighting, because fighting is totally different. You actually have to hurt this person. One, if we're related, I'm not fighting. Two, if we are teammates, and depending on what I define as teammates, like my boy, like my homie, somebody I actually like will be friends with after this is all done, I will fight them, but the money and the circumstances has to be right. If it's not for a title, I'm not fighting you. I'm not gonna just fight you just for shits and giggles. Like, yeah, everybody wants to see it. No, I don't care. If it's for a title, yeah, I'll fight you, because at the end of the day, you got what I want. But when it comes to anything else, nah, I'll chill. There's other people I can fight.
Yeah, there's always other people. That's always an option. But when it comes down to it, when you get to the high level, sometimes you're going to have to fight teammates, and that's what you got to do. You can't pick and choose. When you want to be the best in the world, when you want to be UFC champ, you can't pick and choose who you fight and who you don't fight. And we've seen it time and time again. People always start out by saying, we won't fight, we won't fight, we won't fight. Then it slowly just spirals into somebody says one thing, then the other guy says something in response. It builds, and all of a sudden they hate each other, then they want to fight.
Unless you're in Cesar Gracie. If you're in Cesar Gracie team, you say you don't fight, and guess what? You mean it. Because they don't fight for it. They don't fight each other. They don't care. It's a brotherhood over there. And I always understood that, like, Nate and Nick, I wouldn't. Why? You're brothers. Like,
yeah, they'd never fight.
I would never fight my brother. Like, on TV and all that stuff. Like, you fight enough. Like, you grew up fighting. I'm not gonna sit here and like, try to purposely hurt my brother. I couldn't do that. That'll bother me inside. But even like I said, I actually respect camps like that. But I mean, I understand both. I respect both people that say, "Oh, I don't care, we'll fight," and the people that say, "Honestly, we don't." The only people I don't respect are the ones that you're not necessarily that close. You do train together, but you're not that close, and you're saying I won't fight.
Yeah.
Then it's like,
that's fear, man.
Yeah, that's
because
me being a bitch.
People believe that if we've trained together, you know my moves, or you know me better than my opponent would, and you'd have like some sort of advantage. Like get your head out of your ass, man. Like, listen, you think at that level that they aren't studying tape of you? Every single moment you've ever fought in a cage, or like they're studying tape. Trust me, your opponent's gonna know you just as well as your teammate will by that time.
Well, I'm not gonna say as much, because come on, man, you do know if you practicing every single day, and I wrestle with you every day, there's no way. And the fact I'm actually getting to feel how you wrestle or how you fight or how you punch is totally different from watching it on film.
Oh no, it is. But I'm saying, you're going to have patterns, you're going to have movements, you're going to have habits, and those things you're going to have reactions. Those things are easily read from watching tape, and those are things that don't change easily. Those are built into your muscle memory.
And another thing about that is also there's a big difference between practice, game time.
Oh, exactly.
You're two totally different fighters from when you were in practice to in wrestling, same exact thing. In practice, I would do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, and when I'm wrestling, I'm way more conservative than I am at practice. Like, it's just a different way, because you're more risky when it comes to practice. You do a little bit more because you're willing to get submitted. Like, the reason why is because you have another go.
Yeah.
Like 10 seconds later, like you're willing to try and move a strike that you probably know you're not going to get, or you might open yourself up a little bit more. The reason why is because it's practice. You more likely won't get clocked for it, and if you do, it'll just be a tap. So,
yeah, there's definitely differences in certain people. Like, for me, I know when I'm in an actual wrestling match or in an actual fight, I perform so much better. Like, when I'm in the gym just training, I feel sloppy sometimes. I don't feel as good. But when the pressure's on, when the lights are on, when you know it's time to perform, I always get that extra motivation. So for me, I definitely feel like I'm much better in competition than I am at practice.
Yeah, but with the whole, like I said, the whole TJ and Uriah thing, that's what we're actually talking about. Is, like I said, I understand TJ for wanting to go with Ludwig, because, like I said, he brought your game up times a trillion.
Yeah,
like you
could say it. Maybe this shows that he's disloyal, but I mean, maybe he's just more loyal to to Bang than he is to Faber, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, it's like if it wasn't for him, you wouldn't even be there. Like
Maybe.
I mean, let's be realistic here, man. He got him in there.
That's the path that he took. That wasn't the only path available to him, though. Let's say Faber never existed. I'm sure TJ would have gotten into fighting somehow. He was motivated to do it. He just happened to find Faber. That was just the path that he took. It wasn't the only path available to him.
Yeah, of course not. But who's to say he'll be that good? Because, you know, bad coaching can ruin a career.
Yeah, that's true.
And he was practicing with a guy that I'm pretty sure at that time was running the WEC.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to get into Team Alpha Male at that time, you know, look at his training partners. Benavidez, Mendez,
Scott Jurgensen.
Faber, Jorgensen, a bunch of other...
all lightweight. And
Cody Rembrandt, you know.
Pretty
these
much
are
the
some
whole
solid guys.
top fives of all the, like, the bantamweight fandom.
Yeah.
Like, and all those were all at Uriah's camps.
Mm-hmm. And if they weren't exclusive members of Alpha Male, then they were flying to Alpha Male and doing training sessions with them. You know, so it's a solid camp for sure, and it's definitely going to hurt them to lose their champ. But I think if this was what TJ thinks is best for him, then that's what he should do.
Yeah, and of course you have to respect that. But at the end of the day, you can understand Uriah, honestly.
Oh yeah, Uriah. I could easily feel Uriah's pain. He's probably pissed right now.
Of course, man. Like first of all, that's your first UFC champion.
Yeah, in a team that was constantly ridiculed for losing championship fights.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were like 0-8.
They were, yeah. Because think about it, Benavidez had 2 losses. Mendez now has 3 losses. Faber has 2 or 3 losses.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Yeah,
it's just between them 3. It's like 0-7 in championship fights.
And then you don't want to put WEC with that too.
Yeah.
Because oh my gosh, I think that because they said I remember Cruz was like Uriah is 0-4, 0-5 in title shots alone. And then if you put Benavidez in there, he's 0-4.
I thought that Faber was like he had won. He was the champ of the WC.
No, he was. I'm talking about after he lost his belt.
Oh, okay.
He was saying that he hasn't won a title shot afterwards, and he was like 0-6 or something like that. And Benavidez, if you count WEC, is 0-4 because he lost to Cruz twice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just like, oh my goodness, that's just nothing but L's for that whole camp, and it's nothing but talented guys, talented wrestlers.
Yeah,
and you know
they beat everybody.
Until you get that title shot that matters, and then it's just like, okay, you finally get over that hump and you get your first champ. What happens? He leaves. I would be, oh my gosh, words couldn't describe if I was Uriah how pissed I would be.
It happens though, man. It's not like this is an unprecedented event. People leave camps and change camps all the time.
You're talking about Uriah, son. First of all, Uriah is from Cali. He has that Cali mentality, and that's like, you're my brother. So I'm pretty sure he truly believed that, hey, you're my brother. If you're in my camp or you're on my team, you are a brother. I can kind of tell that's the way by the way he acts.
This isn't a fucking soccer team. They're not, college buddies anymore.
He's not from New York,
This is fighting. I'm telling you.
And I'm pretty sure he's one of those guys that believe there's much more to life than just fighting.
At the end of the day, only one man can be champion. And TJ knows that. And Faber want to be, friends. TJ says, fuck it. I want to be championship is more important than friendship.
Yeah, and I respect, like I said, I respect it. I mean, at the end of the day, hey, I understand you got to make your moves. You got to, better yourself sometimes. You have to put yourself in better situations. Sometimes you have to leave a situation to make your life better. Hey, understand it, but also understand the guy that isn't okay with it, especially the guy that's supposedly, So I understand both.
I can
sides.
see both sides.
But, so, our next topic, which is Miss Ronda Rousey.
Ronda Rousey.
It's just been confirmed, everyone. She is dating Travis.
Whoa. You can't say that childish shit in here.
I'm sorry. I mean,
dating?
I'm sorry.
That's for children, according to Travis Brown. No.
So Travis Brown, that is
she is his woman, and Travis Brown is her man.
Yeah,
and that's how they are.
Boyfriend and girlfriend is childish.
That's some childish shit.
Stupid.
Which isn't as childish as dating someone who's married, I guess. But, whatever. Okay. You can have it your way.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
All right. So for those of you who don't know the situation, Travis Brown in an interview, I think yesterday, confirmed that he is in a relationship with Ronda Rousey, which, as far as that goes, if that was the end of the conversation right there, boom, there's no issues there. Do what makes you happy in life. That's fine. We wouldn't
be talking about it.
Best wishes to both of you guys. Hope you guys have awesome sex and a great life. Boom, that's the end of the conversation. But it's there. The problem is Travis Brown has some issues, and Ronda Rousey, her main thing besides being a championship fighter is she is this modern day new kind of feminist, new perfect example for women, kind of that new independent.
She's like the new Oprah. She gives girls
kind of, yeah. And then you've got Travis Brown, he's got 2 kids already with his first wife. His second wife accused him of domestic violence, even though he was cleared by a UFC FBI investigation. There's still issues there. So now he's getting divorced from his second wife, and now he started getting. But he's not divorced yet. He's getting divorced. And now he's in a relationship with Ronda Rousey, which is very awkward because now you've got Ronda Rousey, who is this role model for girls everywhere, and she's dating a married man.
Pretty much being a glorified side joint.
Yeah.
Because this rumor's been going down for months.
Yeah, the rumor's been going down for a while. And
mind you, I think she was actually dating Brandon Schaub.
She was
an awful choice, by the way.
She had some going on with Brendan Schaub. And
because Brandon Schaub is the one that brought it to light.
Yeah,
and he's the one that pretty much leaked everything out. He was being a little vagina and told out her business, saying, "Oh, you're dating Travis Brown and he's married."
Yeah,
and now it's finally confirmed.
She's got to think for heavyweights, man.
Yeah, she got to think for heavyweights. I mean, I guess she was thinking, "Hey, I can't toss their asses," so I mean, but she still break their arms. But this whole thing would not be news, and nor would I even care to talk about it if it wasn't for the fact that Ronda Rousey is like the most controversial person in UFC outside of Conor. And, I understand she the cash cow, blah, 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 all that good shit. But at the same time, she gets on my nerves. Every 5 seconds, she always wants to talk about Floyd Mayweather. Every chance she gets. About him being a domestic violence, beating his girl, blah, blah, blah. So now now the guy she's dating is accused of the same exact thing, regardless if he was exonerated or not. Because let's be realistic, there's some cases that Floyd has been exonerated from as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to go that route, we can go this route as well. And Travis Brown may have not gotten the domestic violence cases as many times as Floyd, but at the end of the day, it's still been put out the light. And
yeah, it's a really tricky situation, especially when you're because in the end, it's all about your rep. If you got a good reputation, that's
you're always guilty, man. Once they say something about you, no matter if you could be pulled out from the church, you can be cleared from everything. They'll still say, "Oh yeah, you did it."
Yeah, your body it's very weak, and in a couple years it'll be nothing but dust under the ground. But your reputation is gonna last hundreds of years. As long as people talk about you, they're not gonna talk about you. They're gonna talk about your reputation.
Exactly.
And when Ronda Rousey has worked so hard to build this reputation, and then you go and do something like this, I don't know how a lot of women are going to take it. I think it just doesn't ride well with me.
Contradiction.
Yeah, it doesn't ride well with me at all.
And that's not the only contradictions that she has done or said. Like, it happens a lot with her, but it's fine. I mean, 'cause at the end of the day, it's Ronda Rousey. Like, she's not a do nothing bitch. So anything she says to do, anybody's gonna hop on because they're like Ronda hop-ons. But, regardless of that, I hope that they have a good relationship.
Yeah.
But I just really hope that she also learns to just shut up and not stop talking about Floyd and worry about your own self and your life.
Yeah, life is about happiness, man. She's got to do it. If that's what makes her happy.
Yeah, I mean, if it makes her happy,
more power to you.
I don't care. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope Travis Brown, hopefully she the one, man. Don't put a ring on it yet. Just wait. Because clearly you ain't make the decision twice.
Yeah, right. I guess Travis Brown hops into marriage pretty quick.
No, he clearly do. I mean, that's why he don't like that boyfriend girlfriend shit.
Right. He's like, David's for children.
All he knows.
You're my woman. We get married.
So you my girl. All right, we get married. I don't do that boyfriend girlfriend shit. That's his problem. He need to learn the boyfriend girlfriend. Then his ass probably start getting divorced.
There's a process here, Travis Brown. You've got to learn the process.
Yeah, there is a process. You talk to them, you get to know them, then you finally get them to be your boyfriend girlfriend. Yeah. Then when you use this boyfriend girlfriend terms, you normally take that. Maybe some people do it for a couple years. Some people do it for a lot of years. Then afterwards, that's when you propose. Yeah. And that's when you go ahead and have this life that we call marriage. But hey, sometimes it doesn't work for those guys either. But
it's true.
Hey, at the end of the day, good luck there, young sir. Now, my favorite news for the day is the one that I know you don't want to talk about.
Oh. Oh,
Dun, dun, dun.
we all know what's coming here.
For all you Fedor hop-ons, I don't know if you guys know.
For all of you who still believe in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and that Fedor is a real champion, yeah, that's who he's referring to here. Continue.
Fedor Emelianenko. I don't know if you guys heard of him. This guy's, he's been mentioned around the GOATs, the GOATs of the world when it comes to MMA. You get him, you get with Sakuraba, you get Anderson Silva, GSP, John Jones. You get some of these guys. But you have like a big group, especially the Russians, that love themselves some Fedor dick. Now, let me tell you about Fedor, all right? Fedor has a great history in Pride. He fought the best of the best in Pride. He also fought cans. I'm not going to say act like he fought all straight great fighters, but he definitely fought a lot. Fought the Nogueira brothers, fought
Krokop.
He fought Krokop. He's fought Mark Coleman. He's fought some decent UFC caliber fighters. And did he ever fight Dan Henderson? He didn't fight Dan Henderson, did he?
Yeah, Dan Henderson knocked him the fuck out.
No, he didn't knock out Fedor. Fedor never been knocked out before. Oh, you're right. He did.
Yeah, he did.
He did. I'm tripping.
He hit him with an uppercut from behind him.
That's besides the point. All right, you ruined my point. Yeah, but anyways, so yeah, he had a big streak. He had 30+ wins and one loss, and that one loss was like off of a cut. So people were really like he didn't lose it. He really was just undefeated, and I think it was like 10 years he went undefeated.
Yeah.
So then, Pride got bought out and they closed down and everything.
Pride, would they get bought out? I think they got bought out by Zuffa, which is the parent company of the UFC. That's why all the contracts for the fighters went to the UFC.
Exactly. But then, so that made him a free agent. And this is when UFC starting to build up. They starting to come up really big. He chooses to go to what is it called? Elite.
Force.
Was it Strike Force or
Strike
Elite
Force.
XC? I think it was Elite XC first.
Maybe.
And then he went to Strike Force because Elite XC was like the brother of Strike Force. But then eventually he went to Strike Force. So then he started knocking out some of these guys, Brett Rogers, Arlovsky, still proving that he's a pretty decent guy. That's when he went to Strike Force and they had the Grand Prix tournament. And it was like, okay, we have all these great heavyweights. Because at this time, their heavyweights were better than the UFC heavyweights. Because they had Overeem, they had Verdum, they had Fedor. It was like Brett Rogers again. They had some decent like UFC caliber, top 5 caliber heavyweights. So he's in the tournament. Go against Verdum, who at this time was known for getting like super uppercutted
by Junior Dos Santos.
So
he got uppercutted so hard his ears fluttered like a fan, man. If you ever watch that knockout in slow motion, because he's got super cauliflower ears, they like vibrate intensely.
If you saw like the force that he was even throwing that with, he literally threw that joint from hell and back to hit, and it was like, bruh, why did you let that land? Because clearly that had some heat on it. That was like you talked about my mama stank on it. But regardless, then he goes against Verdum. Looked good in first like 20 seconds, and he throwing all these haymakers and supposedly rocked him. I'm using bunny quotes. Rocked Verdum and gets tapped out. So then I'm like, oh my God, Fedor, he lost. I can't believe it. That's his first technical loss. What happens next? He goes against Bigfoot Silva, who honestly, in my opinion, is a horrible fighter. I just think he's big. Beat the living hell out of Fedor.
He mounted Fedor and then proceeded to use his massive, abnormally human large hands to beat him.
For 2 rounds.
Yeah.
It was a horrible fight. He beat the living hell out of him. And what happened after that, everyone? He went against Dan Henderson.
A middleweight.
Who's also at that time probably was like 42.
That was also a very clean knockout.
Oh, yeah. It was
a scramble position. Dan Henderson got behind him. Fedor was in a turtle position. He throws an uppercut between Fedor's arms that lands clean on his jaw, and Fedor drops.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. But, yeah, so then I was like, oh, my gosh, Fedor needs to retire. So I think he retired.
He did.
And he chilled for a little bit. And then he came back. And he fought like 2 scrubs.
No, now he's come back. Now I don't think.
No. He retired twice.
Okay.
And he fought 2 guys after that. I want to say 2. I'm gonna have to fact check it, but I know for a fact he had a fight afterwards. And he fought some bums, and he beat him, of course. So then, now he retired. Then he retired again. He was like, I'm done. I gave the sport all I got. Blah blah blah. So recently, months ago, he was like, "I'm coming back."
At the Bellator strike, at the, what they call it, Dynamite, Bellator Dynamite
With
event.
Glory
It
and
was the
Bellator.
Glory Bellator
But before
event.
that, and actually, yeah, actually, he had 3 matches after
Yeah,
the Dan Henderson. It was Jeff Monson or whatever, which was a bum, and a Japanese guy, and Pedro Rizzo.
yeah.
But regardless, I remember before that, people were hinting that he was finally going to go to the UFC because the big thing about Fedor was the fact that he was ducking the tough competition in the UFC. And at this time, I think Brock Lesnar was ruling in the UFC, so people wanted the Fedor versus Brock Lesnar. But now it's like, all right, it's the opportunity again. Are you gonna do it? I remember there was like a little thing where Dana White like had the smiley face where it had Fedor going to a UFC. It was like a little post, and Dana White, you know how he does his little smiley face thing when it basically means that's what happened or something good happened. So everybody was like, all right, he's going to the UFC. Who's going to be his first fight? They started getting to the point. Was like, all right, who is going to welcome Fedor into the UFC?
People were talking about sending him straight to the top and giving him an automatic title shot.
Which would have been stupid as hell.
Yeah, it would have.
But yeah, and that would have been embarrassing
Him
for
fighting
him.
anybody in the UFC is stupid as hell.
But regardless, so then there was like the Dynamite, Glory, and Bellator show, which was a great show, by the way. And they need to do more of those. They'll probably get the ratings up. But yeah, like I was saying, he comes in there and he was like, all right, I'm gonna fight in New Year's, and I'm gonna fight for an individual program. I'm not fighting for Bellator. And guess who I'm gonna fight? A nigga that's 1-0.
1-0.
1-0.
A nobody who is a kickboxer who got knocked out in his last 3 kickboxing fights.
Bruh. I'm sorry, but if you have that GOAT title, there's no way you should be fighting somebody that's 1-0. I'm sorry. Even if you're gonna fight a washed up bums, fight a washed up bums. Don't fight a guy that's 1-0.
Yeah.
At least Randy Couture, when he was getting older, he was like, all right, I'm gonna fight other people that are older. I'm gonna fight Nogueira. I'm gonna fight some people that are old. I'm not gonna fight somebody that's 1-0.
All right, now let me explain to everyone why this makes total sense, and you shouldn't be surprised. Pride is where Fedor became Fedor. Pride is where he got that massive winning streak. He was beating up everybody, and that's where his legend come from. That's why people call him GOAT. You got to understand something about Pride. It wasn't sanctioned like they have fights in the UFC now. The rules were different. And when I say rules, I don't mean you could kick someone in the head. No, I mean rules like they were all on roids and they had fixed fights. That is a known fact in Pride. If you deny that fact, you're just denying what everyone knows to be true. Did they have some legit fights? Yeah, they did. But for the most part, they were fixed fights and they were all on steroids. That's why a lot of fighters came over from Pride, had a big problem getting into the UFC. We all know Shogun was like their golden boy, gets choked out by Forrest Griffin, his first fight over here.
Uh-huh.
There was a big transition. And when it comes to getting sanctioned fights under legit rules, a legit referee who doesn't have an earpiece in his ear telling him what to do.
Or a freaking GoPro camera.
Yeah, all right. Fedor's real record is 3-3. That is not a GOAT. That is a barely average fighter. But when you have this myth about you, that you are some great fighter, you want to protect that myth. So I understand why he would duck all the good competition and fight for some upstart Japanese promotion in Japan, fighting some nobody. It makes total sense. When you're a fraud and people still believe you, you're going to work to maintain that reputation. But everyone knows now he's a fraud. If you still think that Fedor is a great fighter, or if he ever was a great fighter, you need to just look at the facts here.
I mean, hey, at the end of the day, I agree, man. Like, you have to, don't come out of retirement for a bullshit fight, son. I feel like if you're coming out of retirement, you better come out of retirement for a fight that everybody wants to see. Now, a case would probably be like Floyd, where he came out of retirement and fought a bum. Well, I'm not even going to say a bum, because Marquez is actually a pretty decent fighter.
What do you
But
mean when he retired after the De La Hoya fight?
yeah,
Well, he didn't retire after the De La Hoya fight because he thought he was done. He retired after the De La Hoya fight because that fight was so freaking close. And in De La Hoya's contract,
yeah, I know
there
there
was
was supposed to be a rematch.
the automatic rematch clause. If De La Hoya ever lost, he was guaranteed an automatic rematch. And Floyd said, "Fuck that, I'm out." Retired. De La Hoya retires. Floyd comes back.
Well, also with that being said, with the whole De La Hoya thing, De La Hoya wasn't going to beat him the second time. When you really think about it, and I really don't like to sit in here and say Floyd likes to duck people he already beaten, because when it comes to Floyd, if you fight him a second time, more than likely you're going to get beat worse than the first. The first is your best chance to beat him,
Oh yeah,
because we are already seen Marcos Madonna, great fight.
Michael. Yeah, the Maidana fight is the number one example of that because for the first number one, Floyd doesn't take very many rematches. How many rematches he had in his whole career? Three, maybe. So the Maidana fight is the number one example. The first Maidana fight, you guys, it's for free on YouTube.
It's a great fight.
Just look up Mayweather Maidana. It's an amazing fight.
It's probably It's not probably. That's Floyd's most entertaining fight you'll ever see.
I've never. I'm not really a big boxing fan. I watch it when I can, but I'm not super into it. But that fight's a great fight. And that was a super close fight. The first time I watched it, I thought Maidana won. And I've watched it a couple times, and it's still kind of real iffy.
I always give it to Floyd just for the fact that, I mean, I understand. It's one of those, who do you think won the fight? The more accurate and the more aggressive. And if you have the mindset of the more aggressive, of course you're going to say Madonna won, because this dude threw, I know he threw over 1,000 punches in that fight.
He's just throwing the whole fight.
The whole fight from, I don't understand how he didn't get tired. He threw punches literally from second 1 to second 0 of the 12th round.
Yeah.
And, Floyd was just the more accurate, sharper fighter, whereas in Madonna was just a mauler. And that's the only way you were going to beat Floyd anyways. But what happened when they fought the second time?
Floyd picked him apart.
I
mean, it was almost embarrassing because everyone was coming in expecting this great rematch. And then you get that, and it was just...
And people were pissed, because at the end of the day, it was just like, wow. And the thing about Floyd is he doesn't game plan for fights. People don't understand that. He does not game plan for fights. He just fights his style.
No, he definitely game plans.
He doesn't.
You can make fun of him all you want about not being able to read or whatever the fuck his problem is. He
even mentioned he doesn't game plan for fights.
No, he tells you that. When the cameras are rolling, he has this "I don't give a fuck, I love money" attitude. But when the cameras are off and he's in that gym alone with his uncle and his father and his close training partners, let me tell you, that's a fucking the combat IQ level of that room is off the fucking chart, and they are game planning out their ass. And there's a reason he's 49-0. There's a reason he's 49-0. It's not because that fucking Jesus blessed this guy and he's going to be a great fighter from birth. No, it's because he is a fucking amazing boxer, and his game plans are flawless. His execution is flawless. I'm telling you, he tells you he doesn't game plan. But I'm telling you, there's no way that he's not in that gym alone or with his father and his uncle and his training partners, and they are just making a perfect game plan.
I think more so it's his family that does the game planning, or they watch the film and all the things. I don't think necessarily Floyd does. I mean, he just got so much going on in his life, and I really believe that he's just a real N-word, and he just be like, I don't care. They're not better than me. And while his uncle and his father is just like, nah, we're gonna watch and see what this dude do. I know for a fact his trainers do. I know that for a fact because I hear them talk about the fighters and stuff like that, and they will break it down, and they will seriously tell you, nah, Cuz isn't good. Cuz does this, he does that. And I'm like, okay, you've seen him fight, so clearly you know. Floyd, on the other hand, I've never really heard him say, oh, he does. The only thing I ever hear him say is, no, they're not going to beat me. They're not good enough. Like, that's all I hear. But even with that, the second time, he already knows what you like to do. So it's just not going to work the second time. Unless you turn into a whole new fighter, which more likely is not going to work, because if you got a rematch, what you did the first time clearly worked for you to get the first rematch. So you're going to try to go with that game plan. It's not going to work because he knows it's coming.
His ability to make adjustments both in a fight round to round and especially in rematches is second to none. Second to none.
Because in the Madonna fight, he was down. Mm-hmm. I remember there was he lost the first 4 or 5 rounds. Yeah. And he had to come back. And that just goes to show it's all about adjustments. In MMA fighting, any sport in reality, it's all about adjustments. Even in wrestling, ours just have to be quicker because we don't have breaks. So, it's always about adjusting within
on the fly.
Yes,
You gotta be quick on your feet mentally.
Yeah, and if you're not, then honestly you're gonna drown. And Floyd is king at adapting to his environment. Regardless of what type of fight you're in, you could put him in a brawl. He somehow survives. You put him in the outside, then you're just being stupid and gonna get picked apart. And then be like he's running. In reality, you're not doing anything either because you're playing to his game. But regardless, quick question: Are you know about Triple G?
Triple G, no.
You need to see him, bro. This guy's like the Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Yes, his knockout ratio is, I think, either above 86%. It's like 88% or something like
Heavyweight?
that. No, he's a middleweight,
Okay.
and he's fighting Canelo Alvarez.
Oh.
No, I lied.
Oh, you had me hyped up.
I'm sorry. He's fighting. He's fighting. Fighting this week. Actually, you should see him. I'm probably gonna go to Beat Ups and watch it. He's gonna fight a guy that's actually really tough in the middleweight, but he is gonna fight the winner of Canelo versus Cotto next month,
Which will be Canelo.
Yeah, more likely gonna be Canelo. But I mean, hey, Cotto's been looking good. So I mean, he has Freddie Roach is his trainer now. So he's actually been helping him out. But it's more like it's gonna be Cotto. Cotto's just too big and fast.
Yeah, man. I'm not like the biggest. Like, I follow MMA intensely and I follow college wrestling intensely, but as far as other combat sports, like I know the top level. I follow some boxing. I follow some jiu-jitsu. I follow some kickboxing, like Glory and stuff. But overall, when it comes to intimate, detailed knowledge, it's really only MMA and wrestling.
Yeah, I know. But it's always still gonna be a dope fight. Like I just want you.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to let you know. 'Cause I know you like seeing people that can throw hands. And I'm telling you.
Tyson's always been my favorite boxer of all time. I love his personality. I love his philosophy. I love the way he carried himself. I love the fact that he knocked people out. And I love the fact that he's from New York, man. New York that's my home state. We have a great history of great fighters. You're talking Tyson, John Jones, Rashad Evans, Chris Weidman. There's a ton of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the most populated state for real. Like, I would expect there to be so much. Like, I mean, it's like one of those they have no choice.
Yeah.
You have nothing but people in there, so of course they're gonna have a lot of greatness that goes on in New York. So, and I'm not gonna sit here and diss it because at the end of the day, New York has nothing but great history, and I always appreciate the New York mentality. Like, very seldom do I meet a person from New York that doesn't have a New York attitude. Like, and if they are, they're from upstate.
Yeah, there's a big gap between living in the city where I live and then living upstate New York. I mean, upstate is massive. You can go directly from New York to Canada. It is so far north. It's a huge state. But outside of the city, man, there's some real country people. They're real country people. So when I say New York, I typically mean the city where I come from.
Yeah, of course. That's just like where I'm from in Maryland. We have like two different places. You have Baltimore and Maryland.
Yeah.
Like, people always think people think Baltimore is the capital of Maryland, which isn't true. It's Annapolis. But it's basically its own state. If you go to Baltimore and you come to Maryland, I mean, you go to PG County where I live, the way we talk, the way we dress, the way we act, it's totally different, man. Like, it's really different. The only thing that's common is the fact that you were technically still in Maryland.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, let's talk about some MMA now. We went from boxing, but the reason why I wanted to let you know about Triple G is because he's fighting this week, and I think you would like him because he's another guy that has a really dope attitude when it comes to he just wants to knock people out. I think his last 10 fights were finishes, like all knockouts. So he's pretty good. And but anyways, back to what I was saying about MMA. We have, of course, the top 10, and you have these super fights that we wish were made. I want to know, what are some fights that you want to see in the foreseeable future?
Are we talking super fights?
It could be super fights. It could be in the same weight. It doesn't really matter.
Well, there's a difference. There's like your ideal fights that you'd like to see, and then there's fights that you actually think you will see.
Well, it could be either or. It doesn't matter. Which one do you actually see happening? Not a dream fight.
I'm a fan of super fights, even though they don't really happen too much. Honestly, I think something that we have a good possibility of happening is I'd like to see. Well, Chad Mendez and Frank Edgar is going to be a great fight, and that's not exactly a super fight, but that's an amazing fight that I can't wait to see. I'm trying to think of like legit like super fights. I saw that Michael Bisping had offered to fight Rampage.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm. I think that would be a good fight.
He's too small.
You think so?
Yeah. Bisping isn't big.
It's true.
And I honestly think he'll get knocked out. I mean, because, like, Michael Bisping have no punching power. Like, when it comes to, like, no. I don't see how he wins that fight.
He picks him apart
You think he'll pick up? No.
from the outside.
I don't think he'll pick him apart from outside. Rampage just need one shot. And I think we're going to have another Dan Henderson knockout. I feel like you're not the greatest of fighters when you're, like, bread and butter.
Yeah, you got
isn't that great when you fight people that are also bread and butter is the same exact thing. They're just like when people talk about Ross. I remember Joe Rogan and them was talking about how Ross Pearson is a really good fighter. A really good striker. Like, how the hell is he a good striker when he fights other strikers, he always gets knocked out? Like, I've rarely seen him beat a striker. He always gets beat on by a striker. I don't feel like you're a striker if that's the case. You're or whatever the hell.
Yeah, I think as a fighter, you will never really be regarded as dangerous as possible unless you have like a go-to finish rate. And I don't necessarily mean a knockout. I mean like you can be like that with submissions too. There's a lot of guys like Demetrius Johnson. He's got the one knockout over Benavidez. But other than that, his main finish rate is submissions, and that's always a danger when you're fighting Johnson. He's always at risk of submission. But when it comes to super fights, the one I'd most like to see is I'd like to see Weidman beat Rockhold. And then Jacare beats, Romero or Jacare, whoever wins that fight. I'd like to see him beat that. And then by that time,
just
I
the
think
winner of that fight is just going to be amazing.
I think John Jones comes back and beats Cormier, and I'd like to see Weidman versus John Jones.
I would love this in New York.
Yeah.
In Madison Square
Weidman has
Garden.
brought it up a couple times. That'd be an amazing fight. Honestly, I'm not sure who wins it. I know Weidman cuts a ton of weight to make 85, so I don't think he'd be undersized.
I think he will.
I don't think he'd be undersized.
I think, put it like this, he wouldn't be undersized for that division, but he will be undersized versus John Jones. I would say that.
That's true, especially since John Jones with his new Instagram videos are looking huge. But I'd like to see them fight. I could easily see either one of them winning it. I could see Weidman tapping Jones in a submission.
I could see it being tricky enough where he catches John Jones in a submission.
Yeah.
But if it's standing up, John Jones wins, in my opinion. I think he picks him apart.
You think so?
Yeah. I feel like the range is just going to be too much for him. I don't think he'll be able to handle it.
He'll definitely
he's not
have
going
to
be able to wrestle him. I don't believe. I don't think he'll be able to get close enough. If DC's not taking you down, I don't believe anybody's going to take. Like, the only person that took John Jones down was Alexander Gustafsson, and let's be realistic, that kind of was fluky.
Yeah.
That was like he was so deep into that shot. If he didn't finish it, I would have came in there and slapped him.
Yeah.
So
that's it's I don't know because not Weidman. Cormier had been when Cormier got into wrestling. Think about it, he had been on the freestyle circuit for almost a decade, and then he got into fighting, which is a lot different from a lot of the other fighters in the UFC who are much younger and went from folk style in college, then into MMA, which is what Weidman and John Jones both did. They don't have any real world freestyle experience. They're collegiate wrestlers who then got into MMA. So Cormier's wrestling just at a base level is going to be a lot different from a lot of the other fighters.
Yeah, they definitely have different styles, but my whole point being is the fact that it's like Weidman's he's not gonna be stronger than John Jones, and I don't believe he's gonna be quick enough to be able to take him down. It's just I found it to be really hard for him to take John Jones down, but that would be put it like this: if they was to sanction fights in New York, which I don't understand why the hell they having such a problem with, but if they finally do sanction MMA fights in in New York. And that was the fight, the headline. You got two New York guys, both champions. When I sit there and say that will break records in Madison Square Garden.
Oh, absolutely it would.
That will break. You don't even, honestly, the card, of course, they're going to want to stack it up. But it doesn't really have to. Those two right there sells it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody in New York is going to buy tickets.
Yeah.
Like, let alone everybody from Cali and Maryland and all these other places. So I definitely would love to see that fight. But, that's not really a super fight. But, a fight that I always wanted to see because I think will be interesting. And I know you're gonna say Condon because you just love Carlos Condon.
I do love Natural Born Killer.
But I really wanted to see. I actually wanted Carlos Condon to have another fight before he fights for the title. But I understand. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say he doesn't deserve to fight Robbie because I'm A-okay because he needs to fight a new guy. And who else are you gonna put there? I don't think Tyron Woodley earned it yet neither. But I wanted to see him fight Stephen Thompson.
Okay.
And the reason why I wanted to see that is because simple. They're both finishers.
Yeah.
Both strikers. They both are unique in their strikes. And in my opinion, it could go either way because while Carlos Condit is a great striker, Stephen Thompson is a striker. When I say he is a striker. That's what he does. So I would love to see both of them go ham because at the end of the day, one of them getting knocked out without a doubt. Like somebody's getting put to sleep, and it has very low chances of being a boring fight.
Yeah, I don't see that. Carlos Condit doesn't have boring fights, man. He really doesn't. He's a stand-up fighter. If he gets taken down,
Johnny Hendricks' fight wasn't the greatest.
That was a great fight, man.
It wasn't that great.
It was a great fight.
It was all right.
He won the third round.
He did win the third round.
But that was a 5-round fight.
But that was because Hendricks,
Yeah, he gassed it out.
This is last week's show.
It was kind of, yeah, right?
Cutting too much
Good
weight.
example, cutting too much weight. But, yeah, that Hendricks fight was weird because Hendricks got, 12 or 14 takedowns, and then when he would take him down, he would lay on top of it, and Condit would actually do more damage and land more strikes from the bottom than Hendricks would from the top.
You know who Condit is kind of like? Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, it's true.
Like they both don't care about wrestling.
They're killers on their feet and they're killer on the bottom.
Yeah, they don't. They let their wrestling slack. And Nate Diaz is another one. They let their wrestling lax because they can submit you from bottom. But if they don't get those submissions, because at the end of the day, you can't submit everybody.
Yeah, there is a definite weakness there.
Yeah, there's a definite. And I also believe that if you put pressure on Condit, he will lose. Just like if you put pressure on Pettis, he will lose.
Yeah.
And, that's the problem. Because I remember the only reason why Nick even lost that fight was the fact that he kept backing up. When he was actually the aggressor and moved forward, he was winning the fight. But, you can't tell Nick anything. He backs up a lot. He does what he does.
Yeah, a lot of people weren't fans of Carlos Condit after the Nick Diaz fight. I love that fight. I think
thought this fight was good.
I thought that fight was a perfect game plan execution. I thought that Condit's combination work was fantastic. It's not his fault that Diaz was just, Diaz is like a brawler, and then he tried to make it into a brawl, and Condit was like, "We're gonna be technical here," and Diaz couldn't handle it.
Yeah, Condit, and that honestly,
it's the same fucking thing, man. Like when you see like guys fight, and then guys get taken down, and then like the one guy is on top of the other guy for like 3 minutes, and not much is happening, and the guy's like, "Why are you just laying on, fucking hump, victory by hump decision, whatever like that?" Like no, like if I take you down.
Get your bitch ass
It's your
up.
job to get up. It's on you. I never blame the top guy. If I see a boring fight and there's one guy's on top of the other guy, and the guy on top's landing some let's call it what it is, pussy ground and pound. He's not doing serious damage. He's just kind of tapping him, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Taps.
It is on the bottom guy. It is his responsibility to get up. And if he can't do it, that's his problem.
I blame the ref.
I do not blame the ref. I don't believe in stand-ups.
I believe in stand-ups in certain situations.
I believe in breaks when they're both standing up. Like if one guy's clinched against the wall and nothing is happening, like they're both like locked up in over-unders or something like that and nobody's happening.
Like a stalemate?
Yeah, like a stalemate, you can break that. But when you're on top of someone, you've had to work to get to that position unless the guy slipped, but whatever. But to break that, like no. How about you suck it up and get up? And if you can't, then your skill set sucks, and you need to practice more.
I mean,
at the end of the line.
You have to understand that part, and you have to respect that because that is in reality true.
Yeah.
But as a fan or a casual fan,
yeah.
You have to look at it like
still a spectator sport for sure.
Exactly, it's still a spectator sport, and that's why I say I blame the refs because at the end of the day, Dana White wants an interesting fight, which is dope because I'm gonna let you know this because, like I said, you don't watch The Ultimate Fighter. He put a twist on this episode. On this show, which is I thought was a really important twist. Ultimate Fighter has, and some of their past fights, been really lax on the finish rates because they're trying to stay healthy.
Yeah, everyone. The Ultimate Fighter. The big problem is everyone plays safe.
Yeah, they want to fight safe. So Dana White was like, okay, we have 12 fighters here. So that means there's going to be 6 fights. Matter of fact, no. There's going to be 10 fight. There's 10 fighters or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be 6 fights in the original round, and then that's like the quarterfinals, then you got the semifinals and the finals.
Yeah, okay.
There'd be additional.
So there's 10. There's 10 fighters. So there's going to be 5 fights. He said only 4 of them going to make it. So it's not about just winning now. You have to win and you have to impress me. So you actually have to put on a fight. And I was thinking, that's genius. Because at the end of the day, that's going to make them fight now.
I like that, yeah.
Because, now you just like, oh, I can't play it safe. I'm not going to just. Because in reality, he knows if the people are going to watch The Ultimate Fighter, they have to be entertained. You're not going to have hardcore people like you, Josh, that's going to just watch people lay on each other. They're going to want to. People want to watch fights.
In the end, when I do watch The Ultimate Fighter, I watch the last 20 minutes of it. I can catch the fight. I don't care about the bullshit house drama shit that they try to make the reality show. I couldn't give a fuck. Like, show me the fight, show me some skills, show me what you got, and let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, and I mean, I watch everything, and I think it's a dope show. But regardless, it's like you if you want to people to watch the show, you're gonna have to entertain people, and that's the same thing with buying pay-per-view. You want people to buy pay-per-view. A lot of especially casual, you have to put up entertaining fights. So that's why I say I blame the refs, because the refs are the people that are the dictators of it. Now I'm not sitting here saying that they need to break up every time they just lay on them, because I feel like it depends on the time, how long they've been doing it. Are they just consistently doing it? Like, if you break them up and they go straight in for a shot just to do it again, yeah, break them up, because they're just, they're tired. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if your cardio is that bad where you have to just keep diving in for a shot just to hold the person down, then you honestly don't deserve to be in a fight. So, but then again, also, you could throw another point that if the guy's letting him take him down and he's that tired, it's also a problem.
Yeah. But yeah, it goes back and forth. It goes both ways.
Yeah, it definitely goes both ways.
Yeah, that's like one of the problems with fighting is like when should a ref stand you up? What position? Like, if you're in side control, if you're just laying on him, should you ever be stood up? If you're in a dominant position, they're different at varying opinions on it. I don't believe in stand-ups. I believe in breaks from standing and stalemate positions, but I don't believe in stand-ups. But there's plenty of other problems like eye pokes. How do you solve eye pokes? Eye pokes is a big problem in MMA. It's not the biggest problem, but
Anthony Johnson's problem. I feel like every fight he gets poked in the eye.
Yeah, there's just some problems. Like, I don't think that's the biggest problem at all. I think the biggest problem in MMA today, and it's always been the biggest problem, is the scoring system. And I'm not saying the judges, because a lot of people are like, oh, the judges. The judges they do the best they fucking can under the rules and the guidelines that they have to judge by, which is bullshit, because the rules and the judges and the guidelines that they have to judge by are based on boxing, which is not MMA. In order to get when Zuffa bought the UFC in 1993, I think it was, and they wanted to get sanctioned and they really wanted to make this a mainstream sport, one of the sanctioning guidelines was they had to have a scoring system. And nobody had any idea what the fuck that meant for MMA. So what they did was they adopted a 10-point must scoring system from boxing. But MMA is so different, it doesn't work. So you see these decisions, and you're like, these rounds, and you're like, well, who won that? And it's like, well, I don't know, because we're using a bullshit system based on boxing. I think if you want to fix the biggest problem in MMA, you don't say the judges, screwed this one up. The scoring system screwed this one up.
I mean, I don't really think I have much of a problem with the 10. Well, put it like this. I wish you could, and this probably will cause more drama, in my opinion, but I feel like you should have more, like, let's say 10-10 rounds, 10-8 rounds. You'd be more liable to get a 10-8 round, whereas if you're more dominant. Like,
for sure.
I feel like you shouldn't. Like, let's say there was a round where nobody really did much. Why the hell do you have to choose a winner from this?
Yeah, why does it have to be a winner?
Yeah, why does there have to be a winner? If neither one did anything to stand out, give them a 10-10. Honestly, if it caused more draws, that's not our fault. That's the fighter's fault. Because it's like, what did y'all do in the first round? Nothing. So, okay,
make them
sit
get
your ass
after
down. All right? And now the second round, now you got to go out and there and get it. If you dominate it, not necessarily like work for a finish, but if you dominate the round and it's like, clearly you were the better man, give it a 10-8.
Yeah, here's the problem with the whole 10-8 thing. I believe that there should be, I think like every other fight, there should be like a 10-8 round practically. But some of the rounds in the fights you see, here's the problem. When the judges see somebody getting the shit kicked out of them, they see, well, this guy's doing great offensively, but he's still defending himself. He didn't get knocked the fuck out yet. He's
not
still
rocked, technically.
Yeah, he's still defending himself, and they're like, well, he's defending himself, so it's a 10-9. Like for a 10-8, these people have to act like you have to,
to getting
you have to be like Gray Maynard knocking Frankie Edgar down 3 times in one round, and then maybe that's a 10-8.
Be like a 10-7 or something.
You know what I'm saying? Like a 10-8 should really mean you had a major advantage in that round.
Yeah, you dominate. If you dominated that round, you should have a 10-8. Now, if you won but it was close, 10-9.
10-9. And your ability to defend yourself, I don't think should play a big role in a 10-8 or 10-9 round. If one guy's all offense and one guy's all defense, Just because you have good defense doesn't mean it's still a 10-9. You're still doing nothing to do damage. You're just defending yourself. That's not. I don't think that should be a factor in your 10-9 or 10-8 decision.
I feel like that in itself will make a lot of fights more accurate, in my opinion. Because then you could also go off, because you know how like a person will be like, oh, I won the fight by rounds, but this person won the fight by damage. I feel like that kind of more so will counteract the whole, oh, you won the fight by. I mean, it will kind of make sure that the person actually did the damage might actually be able to win the fight. Because let's look at it like this, Josh. We're in a street fight or whatever, and for some odd reason we went rounds. Now, the first time I like knocked you out, or I like beat the living hell out of you. Then the next 2 rounds, you supposedly, won, but you didn't rock me or anything, but you just won. All right, and we go to school the next day. Who the hell they gonna say won that fight? Me.
There's a clear example of that in MMA, man. BJ Penn, GSP won. BJ Penn rocked the hell out of GSP the first round. GSP used wrestling to beat him in the second 2 rounds, and GSP won the fight. Did he really win the fight?
Hell no.
Yeah, he did, technically, but not on damage. Round.
But in reality, when you look at it and be like, oh, well, who got fucked up in that fight? GSP.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure his eyes were closed. Like, he got...
Well, here's another thing that there's a problem with that, is that there's nothing in the rule set that says we have to pay attention to the damage done. It's not a factor in deciding a fight. In deciding a fight, it's based on effective striking, which means the strikes that land, the strikes that are thrown. There's nothing that says the damage of the strikes. And the reason for that is, how do you measure damage? There is a new technology. Come out. I think it's called a hit chip, and they're using it in boxing. In particular, there's a new boxing organization called BKB, Big Knockout Boxing, where they fight in a very closed ring, about the size of the room we're in. They fight in a ring about this size.
That's stupid.
But what they have is they have a microchip in the boxing gloves, and they measure the poundage that they're being hit with. So in that case, you can start measuring damage, and because it's like some people. Let's be honest. Some people, when they get hit, they bruise easier than others. You cannot,
is true. Like Nick Diaz.
Yeah, you cannot look at someone's face and say this guy took a lot of damage, and then look at BJ Penn. BJ Penn in his fight with Roy McDonald got fucked up, and coming out of it, he really didn't look that beat up compared to other fights.
Yeah,
so you can't really how do you measure damage? And that's the reason why it says based on effective striking, not based on damage.
But the thing about that, though, and of course when it comes to technology, is the fact of malfunctioning.
Yeah,
and that's the risk that you have with that. And let's say it can easily malfunction and be like, oh, this dude's hit was this per square mile or whatever the hell it is, and then this guy's wasn't, but his punch was slow as hell, and it literally did not. It hit his arm or something like that. Yeah. It's just really weird how you can do technology. Technology isn't. I feel like it's gonna probably mess it up if anything.
I think you gotta embrace the future, and if you want damage to be a deciding factor in a fight, which it should be, then you need a way to measure that damage. I mean, it cannot be just by the human eye. Here's the problem. It works in boxing because the only thing you can hit with in boxing are your hands covered by gloves. How do you do it in MMA? You'd have to have a sensor on your hands, your elbows, your knees, your kicks, your shoulders.
Which is not going to work.
In MMA, everything is a weapon. So you'd have to have measurements on everything. So unless they can get it so that it's like a piece of tape that goes on your shoulder, or a piece of tape, that goes across your elbow, that would work. So you could have some sort of a sensor. But as of right now, it wouldn't work in MMA. The technology's got to get better. But I like where it's going.
But even still, though, because you're going to have to, even put it on your foot, because you can get a fluky foot knockout.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Anderson Silva with the teeth. You're going to give sensor on the bottom of his foot?
Yeah.
It's just...
Foot stomps, man. You standing up with somebody against the cage, you start stomping their foot. It's every part of your body is a weapon.
Just give them to wear the
sleeve.
The
maybe, man. Maybe in the future they'll be wearing full Under Armour outfits, and they'll have sensors.
like jackasses.
You ever see
they have a full Reebok,
a full
Reebok sensor?
Dude, the future is crazy. We have no idea where it's gonna go. We're joking about it, but that could be the future.
I mean, it honestly could be. I don't want to sit here and say what's not gonna happen, because at the end of the day, we don't know. The future is always overboard, but
But just so you know, if you're ever watching a fight and you say, well, that guy did more damage until he won the fight, now you know not to say that, because damage is not a deciding factor in a fight. And if you ever hear someone say that, then you can now educate them and tell them that doesn't matter for shit, because it doesn't.
I mean,
it should, but it doesn't.
It should, and also, I mean, There's so many routes you can go with fighting. Like I said, you can always go to round basis. You can go by damage, or you the right way, which is putting both together, and that's when you come to the conclusion. And there's been some asinine judging that's been in both boxing and MMA.
Oh, for sure.
But and that's gonna always happen forever. I don't want people to think that there's ever gonna be a cure for that. No, I honestly believe as long as you got humans judging,
there's gonna be human error.
Ever gonna have errors when it comes to judging.
Yeah.
So don't ever expect that. As long as you have us as human beings sitting there watching it and judging it, we're always gonna have some margin of error. So I don't think people should. I mean, of course, you want to minimize it as much as you possibly can, and you definitely don't want those at championship fights. Because I mean, in reality, with championship fights, have there really been controversial decisions that's really been like really bad?
I'm trying to think. Not too many.
I don't think there's been like championship fight wise. I don't think there's. Of course, you have one that's controversial, but that's because it could have went either way. It's never. I can't think of a fight
where they gave it to the other guy.
Yeah, where they gave it to the other guy. Oh well, GSP.
With who?
Hendricks.
Yeah. I think GSP won that fight. I think the problem with that fight is watching it. Every time Hendricks won a round, it was like clear, oh, Hendricks won that round. But then when GSP won a round, it was like, it was close. Maybe it was GSP. And so you had like 3 close rounds and 2 dominant rounds. But the judges gave the 3 close rounds to GSP, and the dominant rounds obviously were Hendricks. Hendricks didn't get any of the close rounds. That's what happened. So, yeah, based on damage and everything, it was clearly Hendricks. But when it comes down to the way judging works round by round, it's a game of numbers here. You know, it's there's 5 rounds, you got to win this many, and that's what happened.
And that's the whole point of what we were just talking about, because like you can have 2 dominant rounds, and this guy have 3 close rounds and still win. And that's the whole point of the whole like the 10-8 things, because if you go about it like what the way I was saying with the 10-8 rounds, Hendricks would have won.
Oh yeah, sure, because his rounds would have been 10-8.
He would have had 2 10-8 rounds, and GSP would have had 10-9.
Yeah, everyone who's worried about that fight, rewatch it, and instead of watching it as a fan, watch it as a judge and think, all right, this round, who wins? Write that down. This round, who wins? Write that down. 99% of you will come out with a 3-2 GSP. It'll be close, and in the end you're like, this doesn't really make sense, because at the end of the fight, you're going to say, well, Hendricks won, and then you look down and you have GSP up 3-2.
Well, that's how I had it with John Jones, when everybody was saying he lost to Gustafson. Mm-hmm. When I looked at it from a round-to-round basis, I was like, John Jones won.
Yeah, when I watched that fight live, I thought Gustafson won because I was really hyped up, screaming, it was a great fight.
It was also from that 24-hour workout.
Yeah, and then you rewatch it, like sitting at home, you rewatch it, and you're like, man, like, I think John Jones won that fight. Was, and I didn't even think it was as close as I thought it was.
To me, when I first saw it, I was like, John Jones won. It was close, but he won. Because, I mean, I remember going into the 4th round, I remember it was John Jones was down 2-1.
Yeah.
And I remember he was losing the 4th round too, but he hit like a spinning elbow or something like that. Yeah. And rocked him.
Rocked him hard.
Rocked him and almost finished him. Almost finished him. And I was like, okay, that's clearly John Jones. So I was like 2-2. 5th round, I thought it was easily John Jones because he finally got a takedown, and he more so controlled the fight.
I thought even without the takedown, I thought he won the fight in the 5th round.
Exactly. So I was just like, I don't know why people are debating him losing. He won this fight. I don't see how debatable it was. Like, I mean, he won the earlier rounds, but slowly but surely, he didn't know how to adapt to the championship fights, which, by the way, Gustafson, I feel for you, man.
Yeah.
Like, you get so close, then so far away.
Getting back to the judging thing, I've wondered if the UFC has put any money into making like a formula. Like there's like mathematicians in the world who are beyond smart, smarter than I can even imagine. And there's got to be, if you paid the right mathematician the right amount of money, I'm sure they can come up with a formula, which would be like this many strikes landed, this many ground and pound landed, this many takedowns times this many knockdowns, this amount of time moving forward. Like, I'm sure that there is like a mathematical equation that you could write that for every fight you could fill the numbers in and come out with a winner. I'm sure that's possible. I don't know why we haven't done it yet, because I think that would take the human error out if we're looking just at the numbers. If we're looking just at that.
The reason why is because you also got to put in the aggression.
Yeah, but I'm saying even that, there's some way, there's some sort of mathematical equation you can use for that.
See, and this is my problem with that, and this is why that would be flawed in a way. Like, I know you're not big in the NFL, but I'm gonna tell you an NFL route. The quarterback, they have this thing called quarterback rating. ESPN has their own thing. I think it's like called the quarterback index or something.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it tells you the yards, the completions, the interception ratio, the interception to touchdown ratio, the yards they're gained, the yards they lost, the sacks they taken, the great decisions they made, and they put all this into one little formula, and they put it in rankings. Now, let me tell you how fluky and flawed it is. For instance, Aaron Rodgers threw like I think five or six touchdowns 2 weeks ago. They gave him a negative rating from all the information that they gained. He had 5 or 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Negative rating. The reason why is because it's somehow like it's not. I don't want to say it malfunctioned, but the numbers, it just gets really, really weird. And certain things, certain aspects of like natural life, they just can't put into the situation, and it just messes it up. And that's the same thing with the ESPN ranking. Sometimes there's certain things that they don't grasp about it. They're like, okay, they don't put in the third down percentages, or they also don't put in the fact that Cuz was wide open the whole time, or he wasn't open, he made a great throw, blah, blah, blah. There's just certain things that the numbers just can't show. And numbers don't lie, but at the same time, numbers don't show the whole picture, in my opinion.
No, it's true. I think it would be limited, but I think that would be a good start towards the future. If you could have, maybe you could have 3 judges, 2 human, 1 computer, working on a formula based on the numbers. You know, I think maybe that's a slow way you can integrate that in, because at least then, you know, because like right now, like let's say you go into a fight, like as a fighter, I can feel this. I've never had a decision, but I know like if I went to a decision, all of a sudden you're just like, what do these people think? You know, like, but if there was something that could say, well, there were this many strikes landed, this many, you know, takedowns landed, this many kicks landed, you know, like, and then, you know, I think that'd be a better way to do it. And I think that's the future, man. I really think that we're eventually going to get to that point. I think eventually the hit chip is going to be a better technology, and we're going to start using that in MMA. I think it'll become a normalized thing to start. That's going to be like the measurement of a damage. Start integrating damage into being a factor in fights.
Yeah. I mean, of course we'll have to find that out. And then you got the whole, that's all Nevada anyways, because they're the ones that run this whole thing when it comes to judging. That UFC has no relationship with them for real. They have no choice. Like, they have to just abide by what the Nevada state gives them.
Another thing about judges is, and you hear this all the time, all, you know, amateur MMA fighters, amateur MMA fans, they hear this rumor and then they just repeat it. They go, well, who are these judges? Why don't they have old fighters be judges? You know, put BJ Penn, Randy Couture, and Chuck Liddell up there as judges. You can't do that because fighters are the most biased fighters out there. They are the most biased people out there. You need a third party that is unbiased. And you put a fighter out there, they have mutual training partners with almost everyone. They have friends with almost everyone. They have styles that they prefer. You
That's
think
what I was really about to tag on, yeah.
You put a guy who's been striking his whole life as a judge, and you think he is going to care or give a shit about a takedown or some measly ground and pound, you got to have out. So don't say that shit anymore, people, please.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect example. I was going to say, a person is always biased to what they know. We're wrestlers. If we see somebody getting out-wrestled, we're going to give the fight to them.
Yeah.
Just off of that, just the way we are. That's what we think. That's what we think wins fights. Whereas a striker doesn't believe that if you take them down and you're not doing anything, you're not winning the fight. You're not doing shit. So they're thinking that whoever's winning the stand-up, or if you are on bottom, whoever's landing the most damage, even when you're on the ground, that is the winner. It could still be the guy from the bottom. So, you know, you can't just ask. You can get a UFC fighter. You can get one of those legends, but you have to make sure that they're more well-rounded, not only in their game, but mentally in what they believe is winning a fight. And a good way is to check their interviews. They'll tell you. Honestly, they'll tell them themselves. Like, you'll see fighters be like, oh, I don't think laying on people's winning a fight. Yeah, you don't have his ass as a judge because you clearly just heard what he said. So, I mean, like, that, I honestly believe that's a great point.
Yeah, I don't think they should have. I think they should stay away from any kind of legends like Matt Hughes, Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture. I don't think they should stay away from any
wrestlers.
of them. Any of them using them as judges. What I would like to see the UFC do, though, is I'd like to see more guest commentators during fights. Like, right now we either have Kenny Florian and Brian Stan doing like the non-pay-per-view cards, and typically you have Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg doing the pay-per-view cards, and there's zero difference in that. I'd like to see, like, for, you know, an upcoming pay-per-view card, they have, you know, Matt Hughes or BJ Penn or like an older fighter who's been around a long time, like a legend, just be like a guest commentator for that fight card, just for his own opinions, just to kind of spice it up a bit and involve these guys who have been around so long, who have such a large fan base, involve them in the fight game even after they retire. Every other sport does that. Why doesn't UFC do that?
I don't know. Probably because they're still young in the sport, and also because a lot of guys that are legends hate Dana White.
True.
Like, when you really think about it, a lot of them don't. I think the only one is probably like Chuck Liddell Forrest.
Matt Hughes still has a great relationship with the UFC.
Does?
Yeah,
okay.
He works with them. He's like the vice president of the moral code of fighters and stuff like that. Every time a fighter gets in trouble, like, they have to like talk to Matt Hughes.
Okay, dang, that's funny.
Yeah,
but I would say I know Forrest, and I know Chuck Liddell's like his best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So I know those two are like. But when I think about like Randy Couture and then like Tito and Rampage and a lot of other guys who really don't necessarily get along.
That's fine though, but there's plenty of old fighters they could find as guest judges.
True. That's true. But one thing that you brought up, and I kind
of guest commentators, not
one
judges.
guy that I kind of thought about is like it would be dope if they got judges that more so was like a Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Whereas because like with
educated,
his mindset,
that's
like
the key.
A real educated guy that honestly he's like your mindset. He doesn't believe in breakups and all that stuff anyways, and he's not biased. He doesn't just sit there and say, "Oh, the wrestler is winning," or "Oh, the striker's winning." No, he will legitimately tell you, I normally agree with his opinions when it comes to who he believes won the fight.
He's got a great podcast for sure. I kind of like to base our podcast off his in the way that it's just a long-term conversation and just you're hashing out details. And if it gets intense, it gets intense. If it's low-key, it's low-key. But it's all about just conversation and building off each other. And I like Joe Rogan's attitude about a lot of things, particularly his attitude about fighting. He did Taekwondo since he was like a kid. He's
Taekwondo, which was funny.
A freaking animal. He later got out of Taekwondo because he realized it was stupid as shit. as far as like compared to other martial arts and competing with other martial arts.
But the funny thing about Taekwondo, but not to like cut you off, but the funny thing about Taekwondo is it's actually pretty good. Like, if you really think about it, look at all the like,
kicks.
Dope
the kicks
strikers.
are good.
Exactly. Like, look at all the dope strikers in their kicks, like Pettis.
There's positives to take out of it for sure, but there's a ton of negatives. That's the problem.
But you can't go into a fight with just straight Taekwondo.
Yeah. They keep their hands, they fight with their hands on their waist. Damage is not allowed. Like, you're not supposed to kick to hurt people. It's all about literally it's point scoring. That's it. So there's a lot of problems with it. Joe Rogan is also very, very talented in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He trains under Eddie Bravo, who, if you don't know who Eddie Bravo is, you need to slap yourself. Eddie Bravo is a goddamn legend. He is the first American to ever tap a Gracie in competition. So if you don't think that's fucking cool,
and he has his own choke,
then you don't know Jiu-Jitsu. Eddie Bravo is ridiculously good.
And you probably did his choke and didn't even know. So yeah.
Training under Eddie Bravo, like Joe Rogan he's very skilled in all aspects of MMA, and he keeps it 100, man. He doesn't beat around the bush with things, So yeah, I think they should definitely have more judges that are educated in the game of MMA, so they know what they're looking at. Because if you see a guy on bottom and he locks up a Kimura and he almost gets it but he doesn't get it, and you're a judge and you have no idea what the hell is going on, how can you judge based on that?
I feel like you got to find guys that are like probably doing like podcasts and like doing commentaries and doing stuff like what we're doing, and then try to get them to join and be judges. Because at the end of the day, you need educated guys that can actually judge a good fight.
Exactly.
And also, another good thing is I don't know where the judges are during the UFC fights, but honestly, you might want to put them in a booth and maybe have them like by themselves and actually focus on the fight.
I think they're right. I think they're right cage side.
I think the judges should probably be like in a booth by themselves somewhere, just so they don't get influenced by the crowd noises. Cause they don't get influenced by the crowd noises. They can see the fight better and they can see it from the different angles and actually observe the fight.
Yeah.
Whereas because I remember one time I was watching what was it? No, it was actually De La Hoya versus Mayweather. Matter of fact, it's any Mayweather fight, Mayweather boxing fight. Anytime they get close to even punching him, the crowd yells. They'll celebrate. They'll act like he's about to get knocked out.
Yeah.
And you would think that he's probably winning this round just because, and even though they're missing and hitting straight air. So you can't necessarily go off, and I feel like judges at times go off of what the crowd.
It's true. John Jones in an interview. John Jones did an interview after the Gustafson fight, and he said in his interview, I was worried the judges were going to give it to Gustafson because anytime he even got close to hitting me, or if he hit me, even if it was just a simple jab, the crowd would go wild. And he said he was afraid that would influence the judges. So that's a real thing.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt, it is a real thing. Like the crowd always plays factor in every sport.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of having a crowd.
Why do you think people, like, they think there's like a hometown advantage, like when it comes to judges? That's typically because the judges are motivated by the crowd. They think something's happening. They think someone's doing really good. They're just cheering for their boy regardless.
Exactly. So any little thing they do is going to get a lot of praise. So, at the end of the day, I feel like, I definitely believe they should be in a booth somewhere, like just to watch the fight and observe it by themselves, and probably give them all in separate rooms.
Yeah,
like,
you don't want them influenced by each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like, get them all in a room by themselves, like monitor them, make sure they're not doing anything, and then just let them watch. Like, it's their job, right? Treat it like a job. Let them observe and study.
Here's a question. Do you think the judges should have access to the stats, the running stats of the fight, or do you think they should just go on their eyes? You don't think they should have access to running stats?
No.
I think they should.
I don't. The reason why I don't think is because is it by a round-to-round basis?
Yeah, so it's like
or is it stat as a whole?
Let's say like a judge, like let's say they're put in like a special booth and they have a special TV that watches the fight, and then at the bottom of their screen it has fighter A, this many strikes thrown and landed, this many takedowns thrown, just as like a running track, so they can keep track in their own mind without having to remember. And then at the end, and then you know what I'm saying.
I understand it. The only problem I have with that is I don't want them to be more influenced by the numbers. But
they should be influenced by the numbers. The numbers make the fight.
Okay, I'll put it like this. You know how like they put in certain strikes when they're like little pity pat strikes?
Yeah.
Like those can accumulate.
Well, they have like a significant strike thing though. I'm not sure how they. I'm never really sure how they like decide what's a significant. If it's by the way it looks, or if it's like the type. Like if they they count
wind up hard enough.
Do they count every cross or reverse punch or overhand as a significant strike? Do they count jabs as significant? Like I don't know how they do it. I have to look up into that. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I think that when they do rounds, anyways, I think they grade off round by round basis, anyways. I don't think that they. Say at the end of the fight.
Oh no, they do go round by round because we know for a fact that in the McDonald Robbie Lawler fight, that McDonald was up 3-1 going into the fifth round.
So yeah, exactly. So I kind of don't think that's possible for them to do that anyway. So I think they have to just go off the eye test. But I much rather go off an eye test on a TV than front side.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's two different fights, man. I've seen fights live before. I've seen them live and I've seen the same fights on tape. They're different.
Yeah, they are.
They're totally different fights. You just see them different. And I feel like that's exactly, what judges go through. I don't know why they have them ringside. I don't know what's the point of that. And like I said, I personally think they should probably be in a room all by themselves. By themselves, and probably have like a security guy or something like that next to them. And make sure ain't nothing funny going on and make sure that he's just writing the grades down and telling what he thinks. I feel like doing that and then having the grading system like a little more lax and stop giving 10-9 rounds to shit that doesn't deserve 10-9 rounds. I feel like that would make MMA. I feel like the judging will be a trillion times better.
Yeah. We can disagree on the whole stats thing. I don't know if it would play that big of a role, but I just think that they should have access to it just as like a backup, so they know what they're judging based off of. Just as simple backup.
Hey, I understand either or. I just don't want people to be like totally into stats because stats sometimes can be misleading.
Yeah, and also what's the thing about stats is like when there's no cross reference between the stats. Like how many strikes does like how many? If I get like 2 takedowns on you, how many strikes do you need to get the lead back? You know what I'm saying? Because like some guys will be like, all right, I had 2 takedowns that round. Well, he also had 30 more strikes landed on you. Who's got the advantage here? I don't know.
True. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it's like there's no equation of saying like, well, you need to land 15 significant strikes or 15 strikes in general to outpoint a takedown or something like that,
The thing about that also is that if you like try to do stuff like that, people are going to try to come up with equations and stuff like that. And MMA is going to get much more strategic than it really needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want people. That's one thing that will ruin MMA. You don't want people to like. You already have point fighters, but you don't want literal point fighters.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I gotta
You don't
like,
you don't want his corner to be his coach and his fucking mathematician.
yeah, exactly.
You know?
Being like, hey, you
Like,
need to land
hey,
10 more
like,
strikes.
We landed like, yeah, you know, like 9 more strikes. He's up, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. I need 3 more strikes to take down. I need 8 minutes, 8 seconds of ride out time.
Yeah,
or
we
something
don't
like that.
need that shit. No.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the end, I don't think it'll ever get that bad. But I think,
yeah, of course. If it did, oh
I
my
think a
gosh.
little sampling of some math in there and some equations, I think that would help the sport, though.
Oh, I feel you. And it's funny because, you know, right now, like, it'll probably be a dry week in UFC and or MMA as a whole, and we still went an hour and a half, which I find to be hilarious.
Yeah,
Because
there's always stuff to talk about, man.
of course, there's always stuff to talk about, especially when, you know, MMA. Like, you got so much going on. But the next couple weeks, you know, we got finally some stuff coming up. I'm so hyped for next week. We get to see Duffy and Poirier.
Yeah.
And we get to see Rothwell and Stipe. So,
oh man, I'm really not excited about that fight. I think Stipe is so underranked. I think he might be the most like underrated fighter in the UFC right now. Like, think of a fighter who's more underrated than Stipe right now.
that actually could have
Wait,
been a good
hold on.
question.
Let me tell you what Stipe is ranked right now in the heavyweight division. I tell you right now.
More underrated than Stipe.
In the heavyweight division, Stipe is okay. He's third behind. So Verdum is 1, then Kane, then JDS, then Stipe. So
Which is right.
So he's really not that underranked.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think
But
he's
but when
underrated.
it comes to like opinions and like
he's never
talk,
brought up.
he's never brought up.
Oh, I will give you that. He's underrated in the aspect of that. People don't really bring him up, and people don't really see him as much.
Think
of a
about this
challenger.
way: he's ranked third, never had a title shot, and Andre Arlovski's fourth. And people were talking about giving Andre Arlovski a title shot. Frank Mir, when he won his last fight or whatever, or lost when he beat Duffy, they were talking about his return and possible title shot, and he's ranked 10th.
Yeah, because
You know?
those were the big name guys,
Yeah.
and like you said before, he's not popular enough.
Yeah, so I guess he's not as underranked as I thought, but he's definitely underranked when it comes to the conversation.
Well, I mean, yeah, because he should be in the conversation topics, but I guess after losing to JDS, people just stopped bringing his name up, which is dumb because it was a close fight.
That fight was so close, man.
Yeah, it was a real close fight. Honestly, if it wasn't for him getting dropped in the third, he probably would have won that fight.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that changed that fight around because JDS was looking stupid. He was looking
Yeah.
so lethargic.
I thought Stipe won that fight. But then again, I've only watched that fight once. I like to watch most fights twice at least.
Yeah, because you always get it. You can always change your mind and be like, I see. Because honestly, I remember that's just like when I saw the Jose versus Chad. I
Mhm.
thought Chad won the first fight.
Yeah.
I mean, from the first time I saw it.
Yeah, the second fight.
Yeah, I was like, how the hell did Chad not win this fight? Because I thought he outworked him.
Yeah.
Like, second time I saw it, I'm like, okay, I can see it.
Mhm.
Like, I still think it was close, but I definitely can see.
Oh
how they
yeah,
gave it to
that was
Jose.
definitely a close fight.
Yeah, I can see it. And then I saw it the second time. I was like, all right, I can give him that. It wasn't that much of a robbery at first. 'Cause I remember me and Petey was watching it, and we were both like, what the hell? How the hell did Chad not win this title? This is crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, like I said, it all goes with second watches. And, of course, I would love to do that with judging, but that will take too long. So you can't do that.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're not going to have people just stand there for extra 20 minutes or 30 minutes just to get a decision. You got to hurry up and
Yeah, right.
pronto with that. So,
Gotta
I mean,
get
I
right
understand that. You want to, though. You definitely want them to rewatch it so they can, like, make sure the decision. You know what would be an interesting idea? Would have them make their initial decision and then have them rewatch it and then make another decision?
Yeah, but then it's like you got a fighter thinking he won. He's all excited.
Yeah,
and then he gets
I know you
out,
can't
like,
do it.
"Oh,
I know
nah."
you can't do it. That would be the most fucked up thing. Like, hey, here's your belt.
It would definitely be more accurate though.
Then
but-
an hour later, be like, hey, you gotta give it back.
yeah, right.
Hey, you gotta give me your belt back, bro. You lost.
Nah.
I'd probably cry. I'd be like, are you kidding me?
No, you got to keep it right there.
Yeah, of course. But, hey, let me let you guys know what we're going to talk about next week. Next week is definitely going to be more so about the upcoming week of Dustin Poirier, the guy is back, and he's fighting Duffy, the guy that submitted Conor McGregor in, I think, 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was first round or something.
So
like
we're
that.
going to see.
I think he's kind of overrated because of that submission.
Without a doubt. But we're going to see who's real at 155, and that's going to be the dope thing. And then, of course, the co-main. And, you know, of course, any other topics that's coming up this week, of course, there's going to be something. There's always something going
Always
down.
something.
We didn't even talk about Sage Northcutt. He's going to TriStar.
He is, man, going to TriStar. That's
Yeah.
a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Big
He's gonna.
deal.
I hope it doesn't mess his finish rate.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will. I think he's got that. I don't think it'll mess with his attitude. I think it'll make him a better fighter. I don't think it'll mess with his finish rate.
Oh, we'll see. That's definitely going to, but we'll definitely talk about more so that next week as well.
Did you see one of the guys? I forget his name. Somebody in the UFC called him out. Called him a white privileged rich boy. That he's gonna have the shortest career in the UFC, and he's gonna. I forget who it was. Somebody.
Well, it sounds like a black guy. So.
It was a black guy. It was.
Was it Michael Johnson?
No, it wasn't Michael. It was a guy I had never heard of before. Well, I had heard of him, but I know he's like nowhere near a top tier ranked guy. Stevenson or his name was, or something like that. I forget. But it was somebody called him out, and I mean that's good. When people start calling you out, that means they want to fight you. That's a plus for Sage Northcutt. You're one fight in. You're literally 57.
Kevin Lee.
Yeah, Kevin Lee. You're 57 seconds into your UFC career,
Kevin
and
Lee. I think
people
I've seen him
calling
fight.
you out.
And he's actually a pretty good fighter, if I remember. Yep, I saw him fight. Yeah, he's actually a really good fighter.
That's a win already for Sage Northcutt. I'm telling you, when people are calling you out, it means they want what you have.
Yeah, Kevin Lee is 11 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
The only loss he has is Alcantara. Yeah, Quinta.
Al Iaquinta?
Yeah.
Okay, that's different. Because there's like the Iacontra brothers are Brazilian, but then there's Al Iaquinta from Long Island.
Al Quinta. Yeah, that's his only loss.
Okay.
So, that's a pretty good fighter. So, honestly, if that would be an interesting fight if that's what he wanted to give him.
Yeah. Thing about Sage, I mean, the kid is 19. You don't want to rush him too fast. That's bad. That's a future cash cow for the UFC, and they do not want to rush it.
Yeah, that's funny, and I'm actually reading some of his comments now. Yeah, he's not too happy.
No, he's not.
I mean, hey, I understand it because at the end of the day, he just got into the thing. He's already looks like Dana's golden boy. So I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna sit there and say you don't do stuff like that because at the end of the day, it's smart business wise as well because it potentially gets you a fight with him.
A fight
and
comes
that
with
can
money.
get your name.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that's stupid because if you got power. I mean, if you feel like you got it inside you and you think you're better than him, call him out.
Yeah, for sure.
Without a doubt. I mean,
I love when fighters do that.
Yeah, I would say this is the age where you calling somebody out is actually a positive. They're not gonna look at you stupid.
This is the age of taking what you want, man.
Yeah, and especially and as long as it's like within reason. Like if you're one of those guys that are like, if like let's say you're Kevin Lee and you're talking shit about freaking RDA, sit your ass down. You're nowhere near that level to call him out. But Sage Northcutt, he's not anything yet. But he's a guy that has a potential name.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely want that guy.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
You want to take that name from him because you want everybody else to be like, oh, he beat the hell out of this dude. He must be legit.
Yeah, it's a definite opportunity for both guys right there.
Yeah. So, like I said, we'll definitely talk more so about Sage Northcutt and definitely this beef because it seems like it just happened like the past couple days.
Yeah.
It's probably going to pick up a little bit more. And then I'm pretty sure Sage is down to fight soon because
he said he wanted a quick return.
Yeah, exactly. I was saying he only fought 50 seconds. So I'm pretty sure he's down to return again. And Kevin hasn't fought in a brick.
I guess there's something special about 57 seconds, man, in your first fight. That was my first fight.
This guy wanted to pimp himself out 57 seconds.
My first fight was a TKO finish in 57 seconds.
And that also brings me to my point. Everyone also, Dustin Poirier and Bubba Jenkins, November 7th, Richmond, Virginia. Be there. They will be there at Odyssey Fights. It's going to be a pro fights. People are going to be out there. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be announcing November 7th. It's going to be a hell of a fight. Hell of fights there. So I would love for you guys to come out and support, and I guarantee you're going to see a lot of people get put to sleep. But it's been real. Josh, you going to say leave them with anything?
No, guys, thanks for listening. I'll see you around.
And stay black, everyone. Remember, Martin Luther King Day is a holiday. All right.